Aloha, you are watching Living Delicious with Helena. And every time, if you follow this show, you always see that we talk about fun things, how to live a life in a delicious way, what to eat, how to think, how to sing, how to play, what kind of amusing things people did and overcame different kind of circumstances to become happy, healthy, wealthy. And today, I am taking a big risk, a big leap of curiosity, and touching a very controversial subject, death. We all talk about life and live delicious. Is it possible such thing as die delicious? Today as my guest, I have the author, Robert Orfali. He's author of over 8 books, sold over, in 40 languages translated, sold over 1 million copies. And today we're going to talk about love and death. Are you ready?
Yes, as ready as I can get.
Thank you, Robert, for coming to the show.
Okay, Helena, thank you for bringing me here, and
yes.
Let's go.
So I'd like to have this show to be in 2 shows. This will be the first one in which we will talk about your story and your love relationship with Jerry, your wife, your soulmate, and the way she died. And then the second part of the first show, and the second show will be about dying and death. Okay. So you wrote a book about her grieving a soulmate. 2 questions: grief, soulmate. What's the difference between grieving a soulmate and just grieving?
Yes, a lot of people ask me that question. I mean,
yes.
There are different kinds of grief. It's one thing to grieve a dog, or to grieve a parent, or to grieve a child, or to grieve a soulmate. They each have different patterns. Mm-hmm. And not all grief is the same. So each has to be taken, certain things come into consideration. So a soulmate is a relationship between 2 adult human beings that have a lot of bonds. You know, they are best friends, they depend on each other, they are partners in life. It's a very close, if all these bonds are working in fine condition, mm-hmm. When you lose a soulmate, you're losing half of yourself. You have like a hole in yourself.
But wouldn't you say the same with a child?
Yes, but it's different. They suffer as much, but it's a different kind of bond, and the grieving has to deal with the issues associated with losing a child. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying in my grieving book is that we can't take on all of grief. It's overwhelming. It kills you. So you have to break it down into buckets, into chunks, and then deal with the grief in each bucket. And in my book, I have identified 5 types of sources of grief bursts. This horrible grief that hits you when you first lose your soulmate. Yeah. And my grief is particular. The book is particular to what it means to lose a soulmate. So it's the only book on the market that deals with this issue of losing a soulmate, as opposed to even losing a spouse.
Yes,
because
yes.
even spouses don't have active relationships that are all
So
working.
how do you know you guys were soulmates? What's the difference between spouse and a soulmate?
Well, a soulmate relationship is based on having all these ties. You go through life together, but it's also based on unconditional love. I mean, the love has to be. We don't sit there and maintain tabs on who does who for what. Mm-hmm. You just unconditionally love that person. Mm-hmm. You give, mm-hmm. and don't expect necessarily to get something back. You just keep giving,
yes. And it feels good to give.
It feels good to give, yes. and you don't worry about, I did this for you, you did this for me, and keeping books and all that stuff. It's too complicated. So just the giving.
It's not necessary.
Yeah.
In the case
of
having a soulmate, yeah. It's not necessary.
It's just, it comes, it flows.
How long have you been married?
30 years.
30 years. Yeah. And then she died?
She died 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. What happened?
Okay, so Jerry basically, as you can see, she was
yes, she was fun,
she was
surfing and
she was
playing
Silicon Valley
on the
Executive Woman of the Year at one time. She was very smart woman. And then she got hit with cancer, ovarian cancer. Mm-hmm. And for 9.5 years, she fought her cancer here in Hawaii.
She did chemo, or what?
Chemotherapy, under Dr. Torada in Hawaii. And he kept her alive for 9.5 years. So for 9.5 years straight, she did chemo, right?
So, but there is always, she has hair on every of her
Yeah, because
pictures.
only one chemo, Taxol, is the one you lose your hair. The other 9 you don't lose your hair.
I see.
Yeah. So, or you lose a little bit of hair, and her hair grew back.
And she has a short hair, I can see.
Yeah.
Yes, but still, I was wondering.
She has a surfer haircut.
Yes.
So she learned. Hawaii kept Jerry alive. She learned how to surf at age 50. When she was on chemo. So, and the ocean kept her going. The Beach Boys, the ocean, all those people were just part of her spiritual support system. And so you could take her out of chemo and she was half dead and throw her in the water and she'd be like a fish and come back to life.
Really?
And then we would take her back to the chemo room and they would wipe her out again. And this kept going. It was, we didn't have too many openings where it didn't happen. So I had to make sure she had good days so it would make her want to live. And so we lived in the now, in the day-by-day existence. We didn't look at death, we didn't look at the past, we just looked at the present, one day at a time.
And is that how, and then what happened? Because your whole transition with the idea of death has become a little bit, you are more passionate about it.
Right.
So how has then, what I'm seeing the picture is, you love each other, you travel the world, you write books, you do all things together. Then she gets chemo.
Right.
She starts surfing and chemo and life up, life down. Her life energy, I mean.
Right.
And then what happened? Can you explain or maybe talk about the last 2 months or the last month of your...
Okay, time comes, we were fighting the disease with everything we had. So Jerry's philosophy was you live every day, for the moment and do the best you can, but you have to fight the disease as hard as you can and then leave the rest of the universe. You can no control. So in her kind of disease, typically she would have died within 2 years. So she was able to live for 9.5 years, which is very good. And the quality of life was good for 9.5 years. And the problem is we never thought about death. When you're fighting cancer, you think about life. You think about staying alive. You think about giving her reasons to get up every day and fight this thing and want to live. So eventually death only hit her, when she got her final CAT scan that showed that the cancer had progressed. And so at this point, we weren't deluding ourselves anymore.
So how far has progressed?
It progressed, well, it sort of, got out of the ovarian cavity and went into the lungs and other organs. So we knew the end was coming. And that's the first time it hit us. And and she started thinking about death, about dying. As a cancer patient, you worry about, is it going to be painful? What do I do? So it's scary. I was very scared too. You're scared because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it could be very painful. A lot of cancer deaths are very painful. And Jerry believed, unlike me, she believed in physician-assisted dying.
And you didn't?
No, I didn't have any feeling about it. I didn't think about death. I was like you. I just thought about life every day.
Exactly, live delicious.
And even with the cancer, I just said, no, she's not going to die. We're going to keep fighting this. You have ways of deceiving yourself and just thinking positively to a point where you can't even imagine death.
Yes.
But she did. And when she
could feel it in her body.
When she did, she wanted the option of physician-assisted dying, which we did not have in Hawaii. And she wanted this to be something on the table among other options like hospice, palliative care, and physician-assisted dying. She wanted that to be one of her options. Not necessarily she was going to do it, but she just wanted that choice. Whether she was going to do it or not, it's her choice, it's her decision. But of course, she did the research and it's not available. And if you use some...
At that time, it was available where?
In Oregon and Washington. Well, Washington would happen while she was dying. They just passed Washington.
I see.
State of Washington.
And Montana?
Montana is happening. It happened 1 year after she died.
I see.
So they're all happening now.
I see.
But at that time, only Oregon had it. And that's where they have the right drug, the one that used to kill your dog. It's a very powerful drug, sleeping pill that,
Is a pill or injection?
No, not injection. It's either, you can either get it in liquid form or you can get it in pill form. And it's a barbiturate, if you see somebody die on that, there was a film called The Death Tourist about someone going to Zurich and dying. And you can see the man die, and he's so peaceful. He just goes to sleep. 3 minutes later, he's in deep sleep. and he's an ALS patient.
And he took his own
Yeah, you take it.
pill?
You have to take it yourself. Nobody can inject it on you. It's not like in the Netherlands where a doctor can inject it. In America, it's based on the patient doing it. So you ask the doctor for a prescription. Actually, it's more complicated than that. You have to, first you have to be within 6 months of dying, and 2 doctors have to determine that you are within 6 months of dying.
So how do you know you are within 6 months of dying when the miracles happen?
Oh, well, with a CAT scan, you can see quite a bit, and you can see the tumors spreading out. Trust me, you see one of those CAT scans, and you see it progressing. You know that organ is going to fail. The miracle was to keep her alive for 9.5 years. There's a time comes when you have to start thinking about hospice. See, if you start believing in miracles and closing your eyes, then you miss out on the easy way to die in America. The easiest way to die would be, assisted dying. But there's another easy, not as bad way of dying, which is hospice. And a lot of people end up going to hospice only for the last week of their lives. And so because they don't know when to say enough is enough, it's time, we fought this disease, now it's time to die, and prepare themselves for dying. And have an open discussion with the doctors and say, okay, am I going to die? How do I die? And prepare themselves and prepare the families for it, so the families can grieve better and be more prepared. So most of us deny it so hard that we won't talk about it. It's a taboo topic in our society.
Exactly. That's why I'm thinking this is the most controversial topic I ever had on a TV show.
Absolutely. This book, even if I give it away free, people won't read it, which is almost free at 99 cents, but
yes.
the ebook. Because we are wired not to think about dying. We are wired to think about living. It's part of the human
yes.
brain. So we deny death because our mortality.
Nobody wants to die. We want to live forever. We want to make money, and we want to have.
On the other hand, this is what I'm trying to tell you. If you don't discuss this topic, then death can become really bad, because 4 out of 5 of us are not going to die the way we expect. Which is peacefully and without at home.
I want to die dancing on the beach and being happy.
And all of us want that.
Yeah, my friend said, I want to die when I'm 90 years old and I'm traveling, spending my money. I'm in Africa on a safari trip with my wife, and we have sex, and the elephant comes and steps on us in the time of orgasm.
That would be wonderful.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, how many people will ever have a death like that?
Well, Jenny wanted to die when she took the biggest wave possible,
Yes.
Possibly on a no shore, I don't know.
Yeah.
We all have a fantasy on how we want to die. The reality and the fantasy are not the same. Reality says that 4 out of 5 of us are going to be tortured at the time of death.
Tortured by who?
Tortured by the disease. Tortured by our system, which can prolong us forever with one tube after another. If you end up dying in an ICU, they can keep you alive with every tube known. So there's a tube that can replace your kidneys, and a tube can feed you. There are tubes that respirators that can put in your mouth. Mm-hmm. So you're intubated. You look like an octopus with tubes coming from every direction. And it's a very painful way to see a person go.
But is that a way to die, or this is still fixable?
Well, a lot of people die this way. The way people die, okay, if you look at the statistics, 20% have good deaths. And most of these people are associated with hospice.
What is considered a good death?
A good death is one where you don't, you're not intubated, for example, suffering horrible pain. The pain can be horrible, because the kind of diseases that are killing us now are not the same that used to kill us before. We used to die from heart attacks, from infections. We died from tuberculosis, whatever. Now we're dying from the slow ones. Cancer, Alzheimer's, congestive heart failure, renal failures. So it's taking its time. Death takes its time.
We're dying from jealousy, from anger, from guilt.
I wish we could die from that.
But you know how slowly the life energy from us is sucked out when we cultivate those emotions. So that's also slow death.
We die from the day we're born. I mean, that's
exactly.
We're just moving. Our body's in a state of decay until we die.
Yeah.
But let's not go that way. I mean, what we're saying is physically dying from disease.
Yes.
In other words, people have. We have diseases that go on for a long time, and that's what the modern nature. So what we've done now is we have made a Faustian bargain with medicine. Medicine has extended our lives by 20 years, but in return, we have to go through a huge amount of suffering at the end.
Yeah.
And so we're getting both. We're getting longer life, but the last years are not, very high quality. They're associated with a lot of pain.
So I would like to go back to Jerry for a second.
Yes. I'd love to talk about Jerry.
Yes, but the death subject is very important because we
Yes,
will
that's what we're talking about.
I cannot believe that I'm going to die.
Yes.
I remember when I was a little girl, I used to look at my grandma, and she would tell me about when she was a little girl, what happened. And I would think, you were a little girl? How can you so old? And she was maybe 50.
Yeah.
But that was, for me, being 3 or whatever, very old. So,
Well, unfortunately, unfortunately, I'm the bearer of bad news, but, we're all going to die.
Yes.
I mean, that's a problem.
Yes.
That's a problem being a human being.
yeah. Or animal,
Yeah.
plant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jerry was a lover of life.
She loved life
surfer
more than
girl.
any person you ever saw. She was, she's exactly you, live delicious. Assertive about life and living in the now. And this woman, every time she walked into a room, she had this incredible smile, and she
You
was
really love her.
very strong. Of course, I love her. Don't make me cry on your show, okay?
It's all right to be human.
No, you don't understand what happens when I cry,
Okay.
And I don't see any tissue here, so.
And I'll take my sweater.
Yeah, take a sweater at least. Press on it.
So she was loving life, and she wanted to live every second.
Absolutely.
And then why was she even considering the option of doing it?
A good death is part of a good life. It's how you want to go. She had. Okay, I want to tell you a story. So it's in the book. She had this vision of being, the one surf rider, overlooking the ocean, having cocktail with her friends, and saying goodbye to everyone, and taking her final drink and going. At her moment, her choosing, she would say goodbyes and go. When she felt that, it was more bad than good. In other words, the deterioration was happening. And that's how she wanted to go. Instead, you let the doctors determine, the pace at which you go. In other words, they keep sedating you more and more to the point where you're drugged into oblivion, and you die,
Like a
with
zombie.
sedation. It's a slow death. But
So are you trying to say, let me just play a devil's advocate,
Okay.
because we all have doubts and conflicts in our heads when the topic of death is a really taboo topic. So are you trying to say that she wanted to commit a suicide?
she wanted to commit suicide. No. Even the Supreme Court justices said, Stevens, I think it was, said, okay, the person is already dying. They're within 6 months of dying. They're terminal. And so it's more a question of choosing when you want to go, choosing the timing of your death. It's something that we do every day by the millions when we pull the plug. We are
Yes.
giving directives, and the doctors pull the plug based on our directives and time death based on our directives. So this is happening every day. The only difference is that instead of having a doctor pull the plug or a doctor sedate you to death, you decide when to go, and you ingest it yourself.
Okay, I'm 15 years old and my girlfriend just left me and I failed in school and I decided to go.
Well, this person is dying. She's not just. She's not a teenager.
My heart is broken so much. You
Well,
know, when you are a kid,
yeah.
it feels like, oh my God, Justin Bieber doesn't love me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die. It feels like such a disastrous
Okay, so you're talking
pain.
about suicide for teenagers, of course.
Let's say.
Yeah, we're not talking about suicide here
But
for
I'm
teenagers.
dying from that. I don't want to live anymore. My life has no
No,
meaning.
we are talking about a terminal person who's got a terminal disease that is diagnosed by 2 doctors as being terminal.
I see.
And,
Okay.
and the Oregon record is has a lot of safeguards to make sure that you're not depressed, to make sure that you're terminal, to make sure that you understand all your options, to make sure that you're not going to die because you're afraid to be handicapped, because you're afraid that you're going to lose your control over your body. So a lot of people may want to do that. Oh, I want to become disabled, I want to go. No. They say, we can help you, we can put you on wheelchairs, we can show you how to become more mobile. Don't worry about that. People will take care of you if you want to be taken care of. But if you decide you want to go, it's your choice. It's your pills. You decide when to take them.
But what if somebody is afraid to be disabled and they don't have family to take care of?
Well, that's what
so
they
they
do.
want to use the
Yes.
opportunity to just...
Okay, ultimately, it's a person's choice when they want to go. if it is, in Oregon. Okay, but
In Oregon.
yeah.
Here we don't have a
Not
choice.
here. but you bring up a very good point. Most people who are dying are disabled at the end, so disability is an issue. It's very important as part of their counseling to be told that you can live with disability. A lot of disabled people live great lives with disability.
Yes.
But the difference is, in this case, you're not just disabled, you're dying. So you have multiple organs that are failing at the same time. Disability is just one symptom of dying. There are so many other symptoms that are happening at the same time. So it's a breakdown of, it's a complete breakdown as opposed to a partial breakdown. So it's not just a matter of let's learn how to live on a wheelchair. With Jerry, we learned how to use the wheelchair for, walker, wheelchair. Every day we were learning a new thing. A commode, how
So
to...
she was surfing?
She was surfing about 3 months before she died. But
For the last 3 months. I
no,
see.
she didn't surf all the last 3
I mean,
months.
the last 3 months she was
Yeah,
getting
so every
physically
day
disabled.
the decay was happening faster and faster. But that's not a reason to go, because she had me, she had her girlfriend, she had support. We were ready to do anything for her.
And what if she would not have anyone?
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't have anyone, and this is part of the problem in society. But if you are in the state of Oregon, as opposed to here or as opposed to anywhere else, one of the nice things about being in Oregon is that you have this final conversation about dying, something that we never do here. And in this conversation, they actually tell you what are your needs. If you need social workers to come and help you at home, they provide them.
Yes, but I don't have money.
That's exactly it. They support, first of all, most of these people are on Medicare. And so the ones who are dying, and so they have insurance. And the insurance covers quite a bit of home care.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition, the volunteers provide quite a bit more.
Really?
And hospice provides its own share. So first thing that happens in Oregon is to get you into hospice. So 90% of those people who took the pill in Oregon were also enrolled in hospice. So you're getting all the hospice attention, which includes teaching you how to live with disability and all this other stuff. And in addition, there are counselors who come and tell you it's okay, we can help you. They make sure that you're not under pressure from your family to commit suicide so they can get rid of you.
Yes.
So Oregon has a very clear way of talking to the patient about death. So this final conversation about death doesn't exist anywhere in the United States except for Oregon and Washington and Montana. And I think that final conversation is when you can talk about your real fears and they can address them for you. Otherwise, you just keep ignoring it. The doctors don't want to tell you you're dying.
Yes.
And they don't like to tell you that you are dying. And you just happen to die, and it's all one big mess. You never had a chance to discuss your fears. And that's the reason why I wrote the book. Because I thought that Oregon has the best palliative care system in America because they talk about dying openly.
But Oregon is just one state.
Yeah.
Why don't we have it everywhere if this is such a good thing?
Oh, well, take Hawaii. Okay, in Hawaii, we have 71% of the people for it.
How many?
71%.
71.
Yeah, that's
How do you know they are for
There
it?
was a poll in 2004. The governor was for it, Cayetano. 71% of the people were for it. And there was about 18% that were determinedly, they were absolutely against it.
18.
18.
Okay.
18%.
Yeah, so 71.
Yeah, but the
pro,
71% who are for it, they're on the beach, they want to live delicious, they want to live their life. Who's going to take time like we are today and talk about death? Who wants to watch this stuff? So generally speaking, you try to deny that.
Who wants to watch this stuff? Everybody who will die.
That means
So
all of us.
if you think you're going to die, watch this. If you think you're not going to die, live delicious.
Well, then in that case, your show should be a complete best blockbuster because everybody's going to die. You have an audience of 5 billion. But the reality is that we don't talk about it, we don't think about it until it hits us, and that's the real problem, is that we have to sort of prepare ourselves psychologically, or prepare our families for it, so we have to put it on the table.
Okay, we don't have much time left for this show, but there is one most controversial question that I want to touch now, and then we're going to continue in the other show about the same subject. How can I take my life away? Or how can you... What about God?
Oh.
You understand?
How many more minutes do we have?
We only have 2 minutes we have. Because what about God? Because I was not asked to be born. So the life is a gift. Why would then I remove my gift?
Okay, first of all, I'm secular. So in the U.S. we have the idea of separation of church and state. So what we're dealing here is a legal law that says, can a doctor give you a prescription for a drug? We're not necessarily discussing who owns your body, you or God. So if you believe in God and don't want to take your life, good, don't do it. And if somebody else, believes in God and believes that God doesn't necessarily own your life, it's just yours, it's up to you to do what you want to do with it.
But then why should we legalize it? It's almost like a suicide.
Well, this is not
why
about God. This is about law, the law of the land. Now we're not talking. Well, okay, if you want to talk about, we have to go back to
the
God.
The law of God says, don't steal. And the law of the country says, if you steal, you're going to go to jail. So they should be parallel.
Yes, but God also did not sit there and talk to you about intubators and talk to you about terminal sedation and talk to you about morphine pumps, like, where they can put, you get killed by sedation. There's a whole bunch of other issues. So we can talk about God when we come back, because it's a long discussion.
It's a very long discussion. But I wanted to touch this so the viewers can come back and watch this show next week, or wherever it will air next, to get the deeper understanding of this, because this is crucial. We have a minute. How did you, as you are grieving your soulmate, who was passionate about this topic for only how long?
We only discussed this topic really about a month or two before she died. She did write a letter of compassion and choices a year before she died.
So for only...
Well, we discussed this topic, no, let me be more correct. We discussed this topic a year before she died.
A year?
Yeah.
So you have been, although she died, you've been passionate about this subject for other people? And for yourself?
No, I never talked about this. I was completely ignorant, to be honest. This all happened after Jerry died for me. As a matter of fact, I got more educated writing the second book. I wrote 2 books after she died, the Grieving a Soulmate and the Death
Okay, we'll talk about the other book now in the other show.
Yeah, right.
So we are coming on the other show. Stay tuned and think about live delicious or die delicious. I don't know. I'm just open, observing and wondering what's going on. Let's see. Aloha. Thank you.
That was
this
good.
is great.
That was very good.